Welcome to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, powered by Foreman and Associates, LLC, a consulting and professional development services firm. I'm your host, Natasha Foreman. Our podcast provides professionals and organizational leaders with helpful advice, tips, and business news that you can use for training, development, strategic realignment, and more. We examine the tough questions and issues impacting our businesses, households, and communities. If you like what you hear and find the content useful, please share us with your inner circle. Now that we've covered that and you've learned a little about us and why we do what we do, let's get to work. Join us for today's episode. Hey folks, it's Natasha Foreman. Thank you for joining me on the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast. We are on episode, I don't know what. This is part 10 of the How to Start a Small Business. And for those of you that already have an established business and you're just struggling or drowning, or you're just, having this love-hate relationship, you don't know what to do, that means it's time for you to revise, reimagine, restart, reset, do something spectacular to reincarnate your business. If this is your first time with us, I need you to pause me and go way back to episode 88, and then you can be able to go through the episodes. As I tell everyone, you're not behind, you're right on time, so you're fine. For the rest of you, let's continue our talk on supply chain management, and we're looking at logistics and operations. And as I said in the last episode, I would explain how to develop inventory control procedures to manage stock levels efficiently. So our last episode, we were looking at our logistics partners and how you go about selecting them. So let's look at how we develop those control procedures for inventory. So as I've stressed before, the inventory control procedures are crucial for managing your stock levels efficiently, and they help ensure that you have the right amount of inventory to meet customer demand while minimizing carrying cost and waste. And so I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide so that you can then develop these procedures, or at least be able to oversee them, okay? So first step would be understanding your inventory types, and it's understanding and identifying the different types of inventory that your business holds. So that could be raw materials, work in progress, and finished goods. You have to understand the unique characteristics and requirements of each type. Step 2 would be setting inventory objectives, where you would define those objectives, and they could be reducing carrying costs, improving order fulfillment, or minimizing stockouts. I'll talk about those in detail and later. And then with that, you're going to ensure that the objectives align with your business goals. If they don't, fix them or scrap them. Step 3, classify inventory items. So we're going to do that based on factors like value, demand patterns, and criticality. And common classification methods include ABC analysis, where items are categorized as A as a high value, B as in medium value, or C as in low value. I'm going to talk about it in greater extent in just a little bit, so just hang there, and just in case you're like, ABC, what is this? Step 4 is determining reorder points, and we're going to calculate these points for each item to trigger reordering when stock levels reach a predetermined minimum. So there's factors that you need to consider, and that can include lead time, demand variability, and safety stock requirements. And I'll talk about that in greater detail. Step 5 is safety stock, and this is where we're going to determine the appropriate level of safety stock to account for unexpected demand fluctuations, supplier demands, or other uncertainties in your supply chain. Step 6 is order quantity, and this is where we're going to calculate our EOQ, which is your economic order quantities, to determine the optimal order quantity for each item. And we're going to consider the trade-off between order cost and holding cost. So there is a dance that goes into that. Step 7 is that ABC segmentation I just talked about. We're going to apply this analysis to set different replenishment strategies based on the classification for those items. So for example, a high value item may be replenished more frequently, while low value items may have larger order quantities and longer reorder intervals. Later in this episode, I will go into greater detail about that. I'm just kind of give you like a tie into this right now. Step 8, we're going to look at inventory visibility, and this is where we're going to implement technology solutions like barcode scanning, radio frequency identification, which is the RFID that I've spoken about in previous episodes, or inventory management software, and we're going to utilize these to maintain real-time inventory visibility and accuracy. You need to be able to see where your product is going and where it is from point A to point Z. Step 9 is supplier collaboration. We're going to be collaborating with suppliers to reduce our lead times, improve our order accuracy, and establish our electronic data interchange, or EDI, or other data sharing methods to streamline procurement. Step 10, we need to look at obsolete and excess inventory and develop strategies to identify and manage this inventory. And this may involve clearance sales or recycling or disposal. What else? Step 11. And really quick, when talk about the obsolete or excess, remember in previous 2 episodes, I talked about how you can overstock, and so you could have too much inventory in a location, and at that point you have this excess, and you have to then determine what you're going to do with it. Do we reduce the cost? And especially if any of that inventory has damaged packaging. Are we going to reduce the cost to a clearance sale? Are we going to somehow try to recycle it back into our inventory? Or are we going to just, dispose of it somehow? All right, so step 11, regular cycle counts. We're going to conduct these counts in physical inventories to ensure our accuracy for inventory and address any discrepancies. And we need to be able to do that promptly and effectively. And I'm going to talk about that in greater detail as well. And then step 12 is defining our order policies, such as minimum order quantities, order intervals, and order approval processes. And we'll standardize these policies to minimize the risk of over ordering or under ordering. So you have to have that balance there. Step 11 is cross-functional collaboration. This is where we're going to involve different departments that can include procurement, sales, and operations, and they're going to all take part in the development and execution of inventory control procedures. This is amazing in the way in which cross-functional collaboration will help to enhance the accuracy and responsiveness of your team, but also that whole supply chain. Step 14 is inventory management software, and how we utilize a system or software that can automate many of the inventory control procedures, which would include generating reorder points and tracking stock levels. So bringing in technology and making sure we have the updated and best and most efficient and effective and accurate technology is so key. Step 15, our KPIs. Remember our key performance indicators, such as inventory turnover, carrying cost percentage, and fill rate. This will help to measure the effectiveness of your inventory control procedures. Step 16, continuous improvement. We're going to foster a culture of continuous improvement, right? We've talked about it over the past few episodes. Just keep embedding that. And we're going to foster this culture where employees are encouraged to identify and implement changes to optimize inventory management continually. Now, a key factor in this is that if you're opening the door, if you're creating this suggestion opportunity, you have to take responsibility for then acting on it, testing out some of their statements, their suggestions, their theories, and seeing what is actually feasible and most cost efficient. Step 17, training and documentation. So it's training your employees on the newly developed inventory control procedures and providing them with comprehensive documentation for reference. They need to always be referred back to something, as their cheat sheet. Step 18, regular review and adjustment. You need to periodically review and adjust your procedures to adapt to changing market conditions, your customers' always ever-changing demands, and of course, the growth of your business. So as you can see, efficient inventory control procedures play a vital role in managing working capital, reducing carrying costs, and meeting customer demand while maintaining product availability. You have to regularly monitor and refine these procedures to ensure they align with your business goals and your market dynamics. Now, what I want to be able to do is explain how to create SOPs. If you remember a previous episode, I spoke to you about the standard operating procedures. I want to make sure I can dive into that so that you get a better understanding of that. I will also, of course, address some of the other terminology and concepts and processes that I mentioned earlier in today's episode. So let's dive into the SOPs. They are essential for ensuring that you are consistent, efficient, and compliant within your organization. And they're detailed written instructions that outline the steps and best practices for carrying out specific tasks or processes. And let's go through each step. So step one would be that you would identify the process or the task or the activity that needs an SOP. And you would start with critical or repetitive processes that benefit from the standardization. So that way you can then create a pattern, a routine that's easily trackable. Step two, you would define the purpose. So you need to clearly articulate the purpose and objectives of the SOP and explain the procedure, or explain why the procedure is important and what it aims to achieve. Just having it with no valid reason is just a waste of time and money. Step three, document the steps. You need to break down the process into a series of sequential steps using a clear step-by-step format to describe what needs to be done. I always say, write it as though you're trying to explain it to a fifth grader. If you can't, then you don't really know what you're talking about. And I believe that that's attributed to, he is not Albert Einstein, this is fifth grader. I think he says 5-year-old, but whatever the case may be, try to explain it in where a child can understand it. 4, include relevant details. So all the necessary details, including who's responsible for each step, what tools or equipment are required, what inputs are needed, and what the expected output should be. Step 5, use clear and concise language. It has to be plain, straightforward language. Don't use the $30 words when a $3 word will do. Some of you guys are trying to be, trying to prove that you can look up a word in the dictionary at the thesaurus. Like, stop it. It's not necessary. It's just blah. So making sure that it's plain, straightforward. Try to avoid jargon or technical terms that may not be universally understood. What you utilize inside of your business may not translate the same to someone else, depending on industry, depending on business, depending on region, depending on country. Explain it. Explain it. Not explain. I need you to explain it. Step 6, visual aids and diagrams. Using the aids and the visuals, diagrams, flowcharts, any type of imagery to supplement the text where appropriate is so valuable. They can enhance the understanding and retention because you're then applying something from a different vantage point, and you're considering the ways in which people learn but also retain information and how they process it. Step 7, include safety instructions. So if the process involves safety or compliance considerations, you need to include safety instructions and protective measures and regulatory requirements. Step 8, you need to review and approve. Involve the relevant stakeholders and subject matter experts in reviewing and approving the SOP to ensure accuracy and completeness. Now, you guys know by now that I can't stand the word expert, but that is the terminology, so I'm rolling with it so not to confuse anyone. Step 9, version control. Implement a version control system to track changes and updates to the SOP. You need to clearly label the version and date of each revision. Oh my goodness, you do not want to be working off of an old version of something and then you're confusing everyone, including yourself. So make sure that you have those dates and revisions clearly labeled. Step 10, training and communication. You need to be able to communicate this new SOP to all relevant employees. Everybody that you know that's going to be impacted by, there's playing a role in it, and you need to provide training as needed. You have to ensure that your employees understand and can execute the procedure correctly. So it's like if you did a pop quiz, would they get it right? How many would they get right? Or would they blunder it? If they blunder it, then that's on you. That means that you need to step up with your training. Get a new trainer. Step 11, testing and validation. If applicable, you need to test the SOP in real-world scenarios to validate its effectiveness. And then you'll make adjustments based on the feedback from your team members and any other stakeholders, and then whatever results that you generate from your testing. Step 12, compliance and legal considerations. You have to ensure that the SOP complies with your industry regulations and any legal requirements. And you need to be able to consult with legal experts or regulatory authorities if necessary. You don't want to get caught slipping in that area. Step 13, responsibilities and accountability need to be clearly defined for each step, and you need to make sure that when you're establish the accountability for adherence to the SOP. Step 14, accessibility and storage. You need to store this SOP in a centralized and easily accessible location, such as a document management system or an intranet, and make sure employees can quickly find and reference the SOP when needed. Step 15, regular review and updates. Remember, SOPs, just like most of the plans and the documentation that we're utilizing, the process and the functions, are not static documents. You have to schedule regular reviews to ensure that the procedures remain relevant, efficient, and up to date with changing practices or regulations. You may do this quarterly or semi-annually, but you need to make sure it's consistent. Feedback and improvement. Encourage your team members to provide feedback on the SOP and make it a part of your continuous improvement process. Encourage them to provide feedback. You take that feedback, you then start trying to apply it. See what works, what doesn't. If it doesn't work, go back to those employees and say, why did you think it was going to work? What am I seeing that you're not seeing, or what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And then acting on that will help to enhance the effectiveness. Step 17, performance measurement. We're going to define those KPIs, or the metrics, right? KPIs are our key performance indicators, to measure the effectiveness of the SOP. We will evaluate whether the process is achieving its intended objectives or not. If it's deviated, we need to find out what's caused the deviation and get us back on target. Or redefine some things, right? Because we may just be totally off cue. So step 18, we need to maintain a repository. You need to have something that's centralized, so you're organizing in a logical and accessible manner for each reference and retrieval of all of your SOPs. Step 19, documentation format. Make sure that you have consistency in the format of all your SOPs to make them easily recognizable and user-friendly. You don't want any deviations from that, because that's how they get lost in the mix. And then you're having to recreate it, which is taking time, and that's money and frustration just to find it, when you're doing an audit of your documents months or, a year later, and they're like, oh, here it is. Like, you don't want to be in that position. Step 20, last and not least, employee sign-off. Have your team members acknowledge their understanding and commitment to follow the SOP through a sign-off or acknowledgement process. You've got to be able to see if everyone's on board, but also gauge from that any feedback they give, any hesitancy, any pushback. You don't want people out of fear of change or whatever the case may be, subtly or directly, sabotaging your efforts. When we create these SOPs, we have to understand that it takes time and effort, but the benefits in terms of consistency, quality, and compliance are so well worth it. They are valuable tools for training new employees, maintaining the best practices, and ensuring smooth and predictable operations within your organization. Don't cheapen this experience. Now, I want to also share with you, when I mentioned about regular cycle counts in supply chain management, so I want to explain what that means. I mentioned that before. So regular cycle counts, which are also known as cycle counting or cycle inventory counting. See how the terminology can, be used differently and people aren't sure what we're talking about. They are a method of inventory management in supply chain management. Instead of relying solely on occasional full physical inventories, regular cycle counts involve where we're counting a subset of your total inventory on a frequent and recurring basis. So this process helps to maintain accurate and up-to-date inventory levels while minimizing disruptions to daily operations. So I want to explain to you how this works. So the first way in which it works is frequency. So unlike our annual or periodic physical inventories, cycle counts are conducted more frequently. The frequency can vary based on factors such as the size of the inventory, the industry, and the criticality of the items being counted. A second factor is a subset of inventory, and this is where each cycle count session focuses on counting a specific subset of the overall inventory. And this could be a particular section of a warehouse or specific product categories or high value items. Now give me a second while I sip on my iced coffee. Yes, I have it today. All right. Third would be random selection. How do I explain this? Okay. Cycle counts often involve random selection of items within the chosen subset. So remember, we have the overall and then we have subsets. So within a chosen subset, we can have this random selection, and this randomness helps to ensure that all items have an equal chance of being counted over time, if you can visualize that. So it allows it to make sure that the same ones are not being counted, and there's some that just never do. So it allows that to happen. 4 would be counting process, and this involves physically counting the items in the chosen subset. This can be done manually by your team members or using technology such as your barcode scanners, RFID technology, or other automated inventory management systems. Step 5 would be verification. After the counting is completed, the counted quantities are then compared with the recorded quantities in the inventory management system. If you find any discrepancies, then you have to investigate them and then reconcile them. They can't just be out there hanging loose, wild, being wild child type. You have to be able to find out what's going wrong and how do we fix it. Step 6 is when you find those discrepancies, you have to make adjustments. And we have to make those to the inventory records. And this could involve updating the system to reflect the counted quantity accurately. Step 7 is root cause analysis. Now, when we have some significant discrepancies, you have to do a root cause analysis to identify why the discrepancies occurred. Like, this is major. You got to get in there, dig deep. This analysis helps implement corrective actions to prevent similar issues in the future. If you don't get in there, it's like not addressing a cavity. What is that cavity going to do? It's going to keep growing. It's going to keep embedding. It's going to spread wild loose. It's going to get all deep down in the gums. It's a wrap, It can take you out. So we want to make sure that nothing takes you out for your business. Step 8, continuous improvement. Once again, we're looking at how regular cycle counts are also part of that process. So the feedback and data that's obtained from cycle counts are used to refine and optimize inventory management processes over time. There are plenty of benefits of regular cycle counts in supply chain management. One is accuracy, and we're looking at how regular cycle counts help to maintain more accurate inventory records, and it does so by catching those discrepancies early and then reducing the reliance on occasional full physical inventories. Another benefit is efficiency, where we're conducting smaller, more frequent counts is less disruptive to daily operations than those large-scale physical inventories. With these smaller, more frequent counts, it allows businesses to maintain efficiency in their processes. Another benefit is timely problem identification. So when we have any discrepancies or issues in our inventory levels and we identify them promptly, right? It allows us for timely corrective action and prevents prolonged inaccuracies. So we get to jump on it, fix it, and move on. Another benefit is improved planning. With our accurate inventory data, it results from regular cycle counts that enhances our demand planning, order fulfillment, and our overall supply chain efficiency. And then last but not least is reduced shrinkage and loss. By identifying the discrepancies quickly, we can address issues like shrinkage or loss before they become significant problems. And this helps to minimize our financial impact, right? You don't want to just be dumping money, losing money. You want to see that money be invested and there's a return on that investment. So regular cycle counts contribute to maintaining an accurate and efficient supply chain by providing, a more granular and proactive approach to managing inventory accuracy. And this method is particularly beneficial if your business deals with a high volume of products or you're in a fast-paced inventory turnover. So this is the reason why I wanted to go more granular with some of this, because I don't want you just trying to swing for the fences and you don't even know what you're doing. You don't even know what's coming your way. So this is why I wanted to make sure I break this down. Now let's dive into the ABC segmentation. I'll go deeper into it. As I explained earlier, it's a method that's used in inventory management and supply chain optimization so we can categorize items based on their importance. And as I explained, that the classification helps your business allocate resources effectively and prioritize their efforts where they matter most. And we use the grouping of A, B, and C so it represents a different level of significance. So let's break them down by category. So category A is your high value. These are characterized by high value, but they typically represent a smaller portion of your overall inventory. They're not the largest portion of your inventory. These are the most critical items, however, for your business in terms of financial impact. And I'm going to explain to you why when you look at the characteristics. They have high monetary value, right? There's not only what's going in, but what's coming back. They're often a lower quantity of items compared to your other categories, and they're critical for your revenue generation and profit. When we're looking at our management approach to category A, it's going to require some rigorous control and monitoring, meaning your reporting, right? So you have to make sure your reports are on point and that they're constantly being monitored and that you're catching any deviations. Something else that you're going to have to do is have frequent and detailed cycle counting, close collaboration with suppliers to ensure availability, and advanced forecasting and demand planning. Now, category B is our medium value, right? They fall right in the middle in terms of value and importance. They are moderately significant to your business, and managing them requires a balanced approach between cost and control. Let's look at some of the characteristics of your category B. They have that the moderate monetary value, a moderate quantity of items. They're important for maintaining that well-rounded product offering that you want. When we're looking at how we go about our management approach with category B, this is going to require regular monitoring and periodic counting, balanced forecasting and replenishment strategies, and we have to also consider the cost efficiency in management. So that's category B. Category C is your low value. Now let me stress this. Oh my goodness. They may have lower monetary value, but they often constitute a way higher proportion of the overall inventory. So although individually they appear to be less critical, they collectively contribute to your business's success. So don't you ever downplay, diminish, devalue, kind of like roll your eyes at category C. No. So let's look at the characteristics. Lower monetary value per item, high quantity of items may include items with sporadic or unpredictable demand. The management approach for category C is less frequent monitoring and counting, simplified replenishment processes, batch ordering, or bulk management. Now let's look at the benefits of the ABC segmentation. We have resource allocation, which will enable you to allocate your resources, time, and attention according to the relative importance of the items in each category. We have a benefit of cost efficiency because it supports cost-effective inventory management by tailoring control measures and monitoring the frequency based on the significance of the items, right? And then when we're looking at strategic planning, it helps facilitate the planning and decision making by directing the focus to items that have the most significant impact on financial performance. Another key benefit is optimized operations. It helps to streamline your operations by applying different management strategies that are suited to the characteristics and importance of each category. So each category, A, B, C, they have their own personalities, their own characteristics, right? Risk management is another benefit. It provides a structured approach to risk management, ensuring that high value items are closely monitored to mitigate the potential impact of stockouts or inaccuracies. So as you can see, folks, implementing ABC segmentation allows your business to optimize your inventory management processes, improve accuracy, and enhance overall supply chain efficiency by aligning efforts with the relative importance of different items within the inventory. It is a lot, it's intense, but this is why I've broken it down over episodes, because if not, I'd have lost about 85% of you, if not more, the moment we started talking about logistics and operations plan and supply chain management and so on and so forth. So I hope that this has been very beneficial to you. We're done, folks. We're done. We're done for today. I hope that this has been beneficial to you and that you took good notes. If you have any questions or whatever, of course, send us an email at don'tcallitsmallbiz@gmail.com. You can also go to foremanllc.com/podcast, and there's a feedback form there so that you can ask any questions, make any suggestions. And of course, you can always send a DM to Don't Call It Small on Instagram, Twitter, so on and so forth. All right, it's time to wrap up, go our separate ways until we see each other next. If you guys enjoyed what you heard today, please rate and review the podcast so that others can find Don't Call It Small Business. We want to make sure that we give proper credit to our show's theme songs. They are the talented and amazing Shane Ivers. Thank you again for tuning in to this podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what we tell you on each and every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. I'm out. See you guys in the next episode. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, there's 4 things that we ask of you. First, please leave a rating and review. Second, be sure to connect with us on social media. Third, head over to foremanllc.com/podcast to sign up to our email list. And fourth, check out all the links and resources in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to the Don't Call It Small Business Podcast, for sharing these episodes with others, and for your continued support. And don't forget what we tell you on every episode. Don't call what you're planning, thinking, dreaming, or doing, little or small. Go big, go bold, or go nowhere. We can't wait to reconnect with you soon. See you next time.